Haven't made a video in a while, so today I'm going to do a simple syrup that you can put in your tea or your coffee or lemonade, anything, and you use herbs. So I have rose, chamomile, I have lavender, I have hibiscus, just an overall mix of assorted flowers and herbs that can be used medicinally for a lot of things, honestly. I have just like a little bit. It's not very much compared to my pot. I mean, whatever you have to use. I have some sugar. I'm just using regular white sugar, but if you want to use, whatever you have, that works. And this is the important part. I have a jar and I put a clean cloth over it. Cheesecloth is preferred, but you can just get a towel and then like tie a thing over it and secure it like that, and that will drain your syrup and make sure that none of this gets in the jar and that it'll stay sanitary and clean for you. So, the pot, and it's on like medium-ish heat. I let it sit and warm up while I was prepping stuff, so when I start, I don't have to wait for the water and everything to get warmer. So, do that. Okay. I used about a cup of water, and then we will get our sugar. Add a little bit of that, and then we'll add our herbs. Okay, so now you want to mix everything together. Make sure it's thoroughly mixed. So I'm gonna let it sit and cook for a little bit. Let the sugars dissolve in the water. But I will say that when you are using herbs, please always use herbs from an actual apothecary store, an actual place that recommends that you can ingest these herbs. I would not get them from a place that you aren't really sure where they came from, you aren't sure if they can be ingested or if they are safe enough to be ingested. Just like regular medicine, always be advised of how much you're taking, what you are taking, and even though they are herbs and they are flowers, if they are used medicinally, they will, have side effects with any medication you may take, any health conditions you may have. So if you're going to use any of these herbs, I would research them, or if you are going to make your own, research what kind of herbs or what you're going to be using, because not everything is safe for certain things. Like an example, I'm using chamomile and lavender, and those are both helpful for sleeping and to ease anxiety and to make you sleepy. But if you use too much, then it's going to be too much of effect of sleepiness, and then it won't feel like you're getting the effects of the hibiscus and other things in this. The last of my cup of sugar in here. It's still pretty runny, pretty loose for a syrup, but as the heat continues to cook the sugar down, it'll be a lot thicker, and the longer the herbs and the flowers sit in this, the more you'll get the flavor and the use out of them. It's really red because of the hibiscus flower, and when you infuse or steep hibiscus plant, it turns red or pinkish. so you can tell that it's working in the hot water because it's very red right now. Making a simple syrup for a tea or a coffee and you taste it and you aren't really sure what to do with it or to add anything, you could always add more sugar or you could add different add-ins. So you could always put some vanilla in it. Also, you'd always put some fruit in it to give it some flavor, just to steep in it. And it definitely is getting darker. As you can see, it's starting to get a lot thicker. The sugar is starting to cook up. All of the stuff's starting to get a lot more congealed. I have used 2 cups of sugar. And honestly, syrups are very, like, non-inclusive, I suppose. You can... So, my syrup is getting there. The sugar has been cooking. Everything's been cooking together. We're at a simmer. I've used about 2 cups of white sugar. You can use as much or as little sugar as you want. A syrup can only go as far as you want it to be. So if you don't want a syrup that's very sweet and you want it to be more herbally, I would use more herbs and less sugar. But that would also mean you'd have to change your recipe of the water ratio to sugar. If you want more sugar, you can always add in more sugar and more water. But you want it to definitely simmer like that, because that is cooking all of the sugar and the herbs and the berries and the vanilla together. If you were going to use this for tea, this would be a good time to make the tea. You could always just set this aside and then, you know, boil a pot of tea or brew it however you like and then add it to it. This is going to make a lot. I made a lot. Like I said, I'm going to be doing like a mason jar full so it can last multiple occasions. You will not need very much per serving because it is syrup, it is sugar, it's going to be a sweetener for your coffee or your tea, or doesn't necessarily have to be for drinking. You could always use it for a recipe. If you need a syrup, if you need a sweetener, you could use this for witchcraft, for your spells. This would be a good protection type of manifestation thing you could use for an offering or in your spell bottles or whatever you'd like. But it's definitely cooking up, so I am going to take it off the heat soon and then I will show you what it looks like when we strain it. Took my syrup off of the burner and it is still hot, so I would not recommend pouring it directly into your container. I would wait a few minutes for it to get a little cool, because not everything's meant for pouring, boiling hot sugar. I have a mason jar, and they are made for canning and withstanding some heat, but everything has limits. So usually before I use a mason jar, I run it under the sink with some hot water to kind of prepare it for the change of temperature. Whichever container you're using, remember that it will need to be able to withstand warmer or warm temperatures or hot temperatures. So probably nothing that could potentially melt or change, like plastic. Okay, so I have my jar and I have a cloth that's clean, so we will put the cloth over the jar, then we will tie it so the towel does not slip off when we're pouring hot liquid. Um, a life hack is to allow yourself some room with the towel. So like kind of push it in and then tie it, because if you don't, it'll just be too tight and then it won't hold any liquid that's going to be poured into it. Okay, kind of like that. So then we will start pouring, and it's going to be hot. It's liquid. It's hot liquid, so please be careful when you pour. It will take some time to steep through your cheesecloth or your towel, so don't expect to just go ahead and just pour all of it in as soon as it's done, because it's going to take time for it to soak in and to filter through. You'll have to just feed it every few minutes with the mixture, and that's okay. But it will take time. It's not something you instantly pour in, and if you get a spoon or something to help it seep through, but it's going to take a little bit because it has to filter out all of the herbs and the flowers that you used for your syrup. See, this is what the top looks like when it's, going through the towel, and there's a little bit down there already going through. It will take some time. I still have all of this to go through, but once it's done, I will show the final result. This is the end product of the syrup. It's very syrupy now. It's a nice bright red color. I have a little bit more in here that I took apart from the jar to make with some tea.